Yeah, I do. It's beautiful
Hello,
here.
everyone, and welcome to Out of Nowhere. Well, my guest today is Erica Lukes, and it's quite a while since Erica's been on. She's underlining passion for the mysteries of the universe, particularly UFO reports and other strange area phenomena since childhood. Can we please welcome Erica to the show? Hello there.
Hello, it's so wonderful to be here with you.
Thank you very much indeed. Um, What inspired you to co-found the Expanding Frontiers Research and dedicate yourself to our archival preservation?
You know what? It was a combination of things. About 10 years ago, started receiving donations to my archive here. I had different researchers that were retiring or researchers that had passed on, and their families wanted to get me information, get me the files that their family members had worked on or they had worked on for
Yeah.
so long. And so I started building this wonderful archive. And then about 3.5 years ago, I was contacted by Jack Brewer, who is, in my opinion, one of the most exceptional
Mm.
researchers on the topic. And he just said that he respected my work and he wanted to work with me on a nonprofit where we do FOIA requests, Freedom of Information Act requests, requests with local authorities, law enforcement, to get files, with regard to what we are working on with Expanding Frontiers Research. We actually won an award for the Utah Investigative Journalist on a piece that we did about Skinwalker Ranch, and a speaker. They had a conference. If I could find my words this morning or this afternoon, they had a conference there. They have a conference there, and it was being funded by taxpayer money, which
Your mic's gone off.
it's very temperamental,
Ah,
kind of like I am. I'm just
go
kidding.
on. Yeah.
But so we've done a lot of great work. Jack and I are constantly requesting FOIA, information from the government, and we're learning a lot of really, really cool things. And so we've, as a collaboration, as a team, we're a really powerful and effective team. And I'm excited. The past 3 years has been a blast, which has been much needed.
And have you been working with Barry Greenwood as well then?
Yeah, Barry Greenwood is a member of our board, and he has contributed a great amount to our online archive, which is wonderful. Barry Greenwood is one of my dear friends as well. I've known him for a long time, and he has mentored me over the years. And if you hear my little dog, she's just having a moment. So my dog Tinker is with me. So here, Tinker, hello. Um, but yeah, it's been a blast. And a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, Anne Druffel passed away. And thanks to Gordon Lohr, who used to be with NICAP back in the 60s, he lined me up with her daughter, Alice Druffel. And the Druffel family agreed to give me all of her holdings for safekeeping and to scan and archive. And there are over 100,000 documents that are original in her decades long worth of work. I mean, she worked with NICAP, she worked with all of these different organizations collecting UFO research. And she also wrote a few books, one about James McDonald, Dr. James McDonald, called Firestorm, an incredibly important book. She did a lot of abduction research and was there. The personal correspondence between her and some of the big names in the field has been very revelatory to me and to our work at Expanding Frontiers. And I hope it also sheds a light on people who are involved in this subject about some of the goings-ons with people, their motivations behind the scenes. And so it's been a blast.
I suppose when you look at it, um, multi-tiered approach to publishing, how do you decide what material is archived or preserved or shared with the public?
As far as I'm concerned, if it hasn't been released on the internet before, it needs to be shared. And that's a really great question. my concern right now, specifically with different archives that you see, not only in America, but all over the world, is a lot of the archives appear to be dedicated to just finding UFO cases and then presenting UFO cases, putting that online. And in my opinion, the correspondence is really where the gold is, and that is important for many, many reasons, one of which is to give you the motivation of the researcher and perhaps a bias that researcher might have while he is investigating specific cases or involved in abduction research or so on and so on. And so I think it's really, it's important to put all of it out there. We have been safeguarding, or specific people have been safeguarding people in the communities, specific, people like Hynek, people like Kehoe. There is a need with kind of the older guard to make sure that nothing taints their reputations. And that's unfortunate because you're not getting a true picture of who that person was.
How do you ensure that your research meets professional standards of evidence recognized by the journalists of academia?
Another great question, and I wish that everybody would have those same questions. We don't publish anything, we don't put anything forward without having the proper documentation. And with Expanding Frontiers Research, we let the documentation that we've received speak for itself, and we put together, over the years that we've been doing this research, the information for viewers to look at and to come to their own conclusion. With regards to some of the files that I'm putting forward, these are the files. This is this entire file. The viewer again is then they can make their own determination on what the information I'm presenting means. And so that's been very important to us. We don't like to speculate.
No. Your lectures often explore the Cold War UFO phenomena and government monitoring of contactee movements. What lessons can today's researchers learn from that era?
It's amazingly enough, nothing has changed. And I think the most important thing that we can realize is the UFO topic has always been a means for grifters, first of all, but the intelligence community. You've got people at foreign adversaries who are very interested and have been involved in working inside specific governments or countries to obtain information, of course, about, hey, what foreign government wouldn't want to know what's going on at Area 51? Why wouldn't we want to know what's going on at Dugway Proving Ground? And so you have people that approach people that are, taking photographs, that are involved in things. And we have to be very, very mindful of, especially now with the internet, like, who are these people that are coming towards us, that are asking us for information, that are seeding specific stories, and then expecting people that don't have the wherewithal to promote false information. These are the same things that took place in the 50s. These are the same things that are taking place now. And so people need to be very aware. Another really, really important question.
What role do historical archives play in reframing public understanding of UFOs and related phenomena?
Public archives are important for a lot of different reasons. You just mentioned it's important, as we've discovered through our FOIA process, to understand the behind the scenes games that are taking place. And so to have that archival material to show to the public, you've got the documentation, people can read this and see the patterns and can become more aware, especially in the current climate. Which is important. And so to have that information, to make sure it's preserved and not destroyed, is especially helpful for a younger generation coming into this topic who doesn't know the lay of the land. And the lay of the land, as you know, is very riddled with landmines.
Oh, God, yeah. It definitely is. Expand Frontiers Research also engages with civil rights advocates, cult experts, and environmental activists. Why is it important to broaden the scope beyond UFOs?
That's for me, those are all so we'll blame it on the snow. Um, Jack and I both have are very concerned about civil rights. We're very concerned about the environment. For me, living here in Utah, Dugway Proving Ground is allegedly Area 52. And
Mm.
get a lot of, we do a lot of testing out there, and a lot of the testing is very harmful to the environment. And so it is interesting to bring on people that are talking about the harmful effects of what's going on in our environment, and then, throw in the way that UFOs are used to kind of obfuscate the truth about what's really taking place at an installation. So it's fascinating. It all kind of goes around to the same types of things, in my opinion. But
It does, yeah. Um, what advice would you give to young researchers who want to responsibly explore controversial or fringe topics?
my first thing would be to believe nothing. Um, and and to trust no one. And I really mean that. And I'm not that type of a person. I'm the type of person that, trusts people to a fault.
Yeah. Oh
And
God.
in this topic, you cannot do that because, you have people like I was just mentioning coming in and, hey, this looks like a person that has a radio show. Let's fill her with this story so she can put it out to, thousands of people. And so trust no one. Be very careful on social media. Do not get caught up in social media groups where you've got a bunch of administrators that are faceless, nameless people who could be not only mining your data, but also trying to stir you or push you into a place that isn't necessarily healthy for you mentally, or it's not giving you factual information.
So true is that as well. Um, what are the biggest frontiers you hope to expand in the next 5 years?
Oh boy, there's so many. I think, for me right now, continuing on, and I know that Jack eventually wants to write a book and we might do something together
Yeah.
and put all of our research in book format, but to expand upon the work of showing the public the links between the intelligence community, counterintelligence, between people that have political motivations. There's a lot of money that is being infused into the topic right now. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I've noticed a lot of different social media groups that have popped up that are being run by people that aren't in my country, that is for sure.
Ah,
People that are from people that are very suspect, to be honest. And I watch others get
correct.
pulled in,
Oh yeah.
to this, and it's just like, oh my gosh. And so I
Too
want to,
easy.
yeah, and I want to educate people, and those are my goals. And then just to keep exploring personally, to be able to travel to different places, to interview people, to hear their stories, to maybe go out to Heshdal in Norway again and have the opportunity to be out there and watch them work would be wonderful. I think one of my favorite part about this is personal connections,
Yeah.
and just, sitting down in a cafe, or, an old drugstore, or, the local bar, and just talking to people, and, hey, what are your thoughts? What's the town lore? And then looking in newspaper archives and doing the digging and looking about the history of places, because all of these are fascinating things and they deserve to be documented. And it's
They,
also empowering too, because everybody can do that in their own area.
they can do, but I think a lot of people are very gullible as well, listening to stories what sometimes are not true,
Right.
and they get pulled in, and then next minute the same things what they shouldn't be saying, and and hopefully, because the internet's out there, you can soon research on anybody now, find out a lot about them and who they are.
And that's so important. And I just have to say that it's really been fascinating to me that in the UFO topic, and we talk a lot about this on Expanding Frontiers, but to have people that, it's like that people that have records, like criminal records, and people that are engaged in that have completely made up their backgrounds, people that are claiming to be CIA agents,
Mm,
all of these things. It's like you can fact check it, and a lot of times you can get information about these people, and that they're criminals, they've got backgrounds, that they're not telling the truth, and yet people will still follow them because they're believing
yeah.
lines that are being put out. Oh, well, he's
Mm,
being set up by the government,
yes.
and things like that. And when Jan Harzan, who was the executive director of MUFON, uh, was arrested and jailed, sentenced for, uh, pretty horrible things, the people that were protecting him or defending him said that he was being framed because he was getting ready to release UFO information. And you just think, come on, seriously,
Yeah,
it's
real life.
not okay.
Life. Yeah, exactly.
We've got to do better than that. And people can. Another thing that I've been trying to do with my show, and Jack as well, is to educate the public on what disinformation and misinformation campaigns look like, because it should be fairly apparent to people. And in America, we have really been sleeping on the job. We have not taught the public how to discern credible information from false information, and that has gotten us into a lot of bad places. So hopefully we can start doing that, especially now with AI and all sorts of things in the internet. So, and thank you for the nice comment in chat. Thank you.
How can listeners support your mission, whether through volunteering, donations, or amplifying your work?
We love if anybody can share information about us. That is really great. To watch our shows, to go to expandingfrontiersresearch.org and to pass that along. We really appreciate that. We are on Blue Sky and Facebook. We're no longer on Twitter because it just seems a lot healthier. And we also accept donations, which are greatly appreciated for the FOIA requests that we do, which costs money, and then also for scanners and printers that we need to scan information and photographs that we have. I mean, Anne Druffel's collection is just stunning with original photos from some of the most famous cases. I have all the Rex Heflin research, and all, just case after case after case, and it's so stunning. And not that that was a credible case, mind you, but all of these things deserve to be preserved. So any
Of course
support
it
is
do.
much welcome and appreciated.
Yeah. If you could change one thing about how government handle transparency and public records, what would it be?
Oh boy, it's a tricky question. I think if I could change one thing about our government is that maybe we could have back, 50 years ago when the UFO subject came up, if we would have not chosen to use the UFO topic as a game and as a cover for things. We had the opportunity to do that, and instead we allowed people like Bob Lazar, and we allowed disinformation and misinformation to proliferate, and it has been really much to the detriment not only of people's mental health but also for the topic itself.
Hmm.
You can't find the truth about something when you have this three-ring circus, and I think that has been most unfortunate. I think with regard to government transparency, one of the things that has been concerning to me is to see pushes from specific people. I'm not sure where their allegiance is. I don't think it's to my country. I can tell you that. But to try to push for this quote unquote disclosure, which could potentially damage national security. And so I don't trust this disclosure movement too much. I question
Hmm.
who the people are and what are they contractors, government contractors that are trying to get government contracts? I do think that could be part of it too. And so we need to look away from the government and do our own research to connect with other scientists and people like the people in Norway, who are scientists who are out there monitoring environments. Those are the types of things we need to be doing.
It is, yeah, that's true. We're going to move on to the Androphil files. For listeners who may not familiar, who was Androphil and why are her files so significant in history of UFO research?
Anne Druffel she was a prolific writer. She contributed to every UFO magazine known to humankind, and she had a sighting when she was younger. She lived in California, and it intrigued her, and so she submitted the sighting to NICAP. But then she joined NICAP back in the 60s and had a personal correspondence, with everybody. You wouldn't believe the people that this woman reached out to, interviewed. I've got hundreds of cassette tapes here of her interviews with Jacques Vallée and James McDonald's wife, Betsy McDonald, and just amazing. Rex Heflin, all of these people. And so she was looking for answers. She was also in MUFON, did a lot for the MUFON Journal to write. She became fascinated by hypnosis and by the abduction research, and wrote, many books. She wrote, oh my gosh, at least 5 books on these topics. And she really, I don't think I've ever seen a researcher that was so thorough in what she did. If she had a photograph, she was sending this photograph to different places to have it analyzed. She had it analyzed by multiple, places. She dotted every I and crossed every T. And although I don't necessarily agree, and she probably would have changed her opinions on some of the cases as things have come to light, she did so many incredibly important things, and she was a woman. And we don't have a lot of women in this topic.
No, we don't. No.
And I know that there's a researcher, Jan Aldrich, who was out there. He's been a historian, an archivist for a long time, and did work on Project 1947. And he visited the archive for 10 days a couple years ago. And I think that when he saw what Anne had done, he was startled. And I think a lot of that was because she was a woman, and maybe he didn't expect that a woman actually had contributed much more than a man. So
Yeah, I
was,
agree with you there.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, she was just fascinating, and she knew the inner workings. Her journals that I have are fascinating. She's got her call logs written down and everything, and she also was she was part head of the chapter of NICAP out here on sorry, I gotta put my little dog down. She's getting a little heavy for me. But she had several groups out in California, where they were out sky watching, and they had this big contact list, and she'd organize events and things. And she just was a real kick. And it was interesting because for many, many decades, she was a true believer. And before she passed away, her daughter, Alice, asked her, Mom, what do you think about all this now? You spent your whole life, dedicated to this subject. And she said, Alice, show me the crash, show me the body.
Ah!
And so that kind of sums up, like me right now. It's like, okay, I want tangible proof right now, please. I know that I've had personal experiences I can't explain.
When you're talking about her, how did you first encounter her work, and what drew you to be preserving in her archives?
What drew me was just the fascination and to read an individual's correspondence or an individual's journal, like, to me, is a very powerful thing. To have access to things that don't even see the light of day, that should see the light of day. Like, it's just really special for me, and for people to trust me with their life's work is a very special thing. I can't tell you when I receive, shipments of boxes and personal memorabilia and correspondence and research. I get teary-eyed. It means something to me that somebody would entrust me with that. And I feel that, obviously it's my responsibility as an archivist, to make sure that that work is preserved and put forward to the public. And it's just it's one of the coolest things I've ever done.
When you get them files, you must look and go, my God. What particular cases or documents in the collection that stand out, especially important and surprising?
I think one of my favorite things, favorite and sad, quite disturbing actually, was the Reverend Harris Bailey case. And he was a reverend in California, and met with him and got to know him over the many, many years. And he had an experience where he thought he'd photographed alien entities in his room, and was lured to a specific place by a group of men with the thought that he was going to show them the photographs, and there would be, I think, some money exchange. But he was eventually, during that episode, he was actually kidnapped, and they found him hanging in a tree.
Oh.
And so his story, and this is, decades after decade of him having an experience as a young man where he was in the military to start off with, and then had severe health effects for things that he was probably potentially exposed to, and did work with him to obtain his medical records from the military, which was quite a process for her.
Yeah.
And for them, and it was important to him. And also, to document the people that had tried to harass him, kidnap him. I mean, and there are police reports, and we've got some of that on Expanding Frontiers. And then also the photographs that he took that he believed were something paranormal. I mean, it was a mind-blowing story, and it's a story that I didn't realize had as much depth to it. And it's heartbreaking, but yeah, and it is sad, a sad story to hear, but a story that is just so layered. You look at people like Betty and Barney Hill, and whatever you think of their case, we've got letters that are on our website. Again, a very interesting letter from Betty Hill to Anne Druffel, and you look at the fact that they were both civil rights advocates.
That's true.
They were in the thick of things, and they were harassed and threatened. And so, these stories have many, many layers to them. And I think sometimes people want to just look at the UFO aspect, or they could potentially, be abductees or things like that, and they're missing so much more of a really tragic and fascinating human experience.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. What do the files reveal about the relationship between UFO researchers and the government agencies during that era?
I've been quite surprised. Anne was very good at communicating with a lot of different people in the government that, reached out and done FOIA requests, and was talking to different people at different agencies and things. And so those are always interesting to read. And back in the NICAP days, NICAP was an organization that was started by people that were in the CIA, which should have been a red herring, but red flag to people. It's like, wait a minute, can we trust this? What's really going on here? And so that, those types of things are interesting to look at and to read and to learn about in the files. And then also with the FOIA requests that we've done.
How do Druffield's perspective compare with other prominent figures in UFO research, such as Jacques Vallée or J. Allen Hynek?
I think that's an interesting question. Those are two figures that, in my opinion, I think have been I question their motivations, to be honest with you. I think J. Allen Hynek was kind kind of held up to higher standards than perhaps he should have been.
Mm.
And I think that, over many, many decades, when you keep changing, it's this, no, it's that. Okay, it could be this. Okay, great. It's a complex riddle to solve. But at the end of the day, have these people provided anything more than just their opinions? Have they provided any facts on things? And that's what just kind of is, to me, is a mystery. But I believe that her work was much more thorough, to be quite honest with you. I mean, it'll be interesting to see Jacques Vallée's files. He has given them to Rice University. Oddly enough, there's a 10-year time frame where after his death, you can't have access
Can't,
to his work,
right.
which I find very suspect. That shouldn't be the way things
It
go.
shouldn't be like that. It should be
No,
able, as soon as if he passes away and he's left him to some society or whatever, you should be able to get into. You should be able to see them. Yeah,
absolutely.
a typical UFO researcher would say, "When I die, I want these to be put out there so everybody can read them."
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very suspect. And not helpful to anybody that's living currently that wants to study this. And it does make you think that there might be more to the story with what he was actually doing behind the scenes, for sure. And if you're not forthright with that, of course people are going to ask those questions. They should. And so, but Anne would want, things out there. She was just like, for me as a researcher, I have made mistakes. I have put those out publicly. That is part of learning. You have to have humility, and I'm not going to be right about a lot of things, but I need the input of other people, and that's how we grow, and that's how we really learn about this topic. And so I think, that's where she was different on many levels. She felt the same way. So
Oh, well, that's good, brilliant. What steps are you taking to preserve Anne's files for future generation?
I have been, actively scanning, meticulously scanning. I'm at the point right now where I need a new scanner. Mine is just given way, but I am doing that. And then Jack and I have been, with the Expanding Frontiers Research, have created an online archive, which we will be adding to get that information out there, because we definitely believe that that's important for people to have access. And also, if people look at what we have available, we have a listing of what is in the Androffel holdings, and if they want to work with us, if there is anything that they need, they're more than willing, or we're more than willing to help. And Jack is the same way with the FOIA request too, so we're very open to working with other people and have done so.
I was going to say that because somebody might be looking into some topics what Anne's done in the past, and with their information, and Anne's might collaborate to find out more about the subject.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's so cool, because for me, there are areas that I'm interested in, and this topic, there's so many places to go, which is great, but, and so if somebody out there has an interest in, A, B, C, or D, it's great for me to be able to get information to them, and then they can go off and do their research. You're exactly right. And that's important, and for us to work with each other on that.
Right, before we move on to the next subject, what can contemporary researchers and activists learn from Anne's approach to documentation and investigation?
I think what they can learn, and that I just love from her, is that she, especially when you listen to her audio interviews, when you listen to the cassettes where she's interviewing Jacques Vallée and people like that, you could hear, I mean, she would just say, you could tell that she wasn't going to buy everything that they were saying. And so she questioned things. She held people accountable. Um, she was meticulous in note keeping. Like I was mentioning, it's just everything was documented. And she had a network of people that she could reach out to to help her with specific things, and that was really important as well. So I think those are lessons that people can learn. Be discerning, and take meticulous notes, and make sure you have a great group of people around you that you trust, that are respectable people in their fields, so you can work with them.
Yeah, I agree with you there entirely. Right, next subject now. Skinwalker Ranch. What first drew you to investigate Skinwalker Ranch, and how does it connect to your broader UFO research?
I'm a Utah girl, so I have heard about Skinwalker Ranch for many, many years. I went to 20 plus years ago, went to a lecture about Skinwalker Ranch. And of course, it's intriguing. You've got men in black, you've got smoking dogs, which is just something I heard about recently, which you just have to say, seriously, a smoking dog standing on its hind legs in a smoking jacket. Give me a break. It was probably just, someone who'd had one too many cocktails out there. But it was a fascinating story, and you get this eccentric billionaire, blah blah blah, who is doing this for the greater good of humanity. And it's just, first of all, no, not really. He's never released a freaking thing, so we know this is all about him and government contracts, and whatever he's doing. But so I started really researching. I started going out to that area, interviewing different people over the years, seeing what they had reported initially, and then checking up with them later to see how their thoughts might have changed about what they had potentially witnessed. I spent a great deal of time at the University of Utah Special Archives, that houses Dr. Frank Salisbury's work, and he worked for NASA. He was very interesting, but he wrote the Utah UFO display with Junior Hicks. And if people don't know about Junior Hicks grew up in Roosevelt, Utah, and was a high school teacher, and was just salt of the earth, a very lovely human being who I had the pleasure to interview and meet several times. But he collected UFO reports from the 60s on, and then enter George Knapp and Bigelow and these people. And according to Junior, there was never anything paranormal at that ranch. I mean, so kind of an interesting thing. But for me, I just started listening, and I believed it a little bit more before I started really digging in. And then things that were very interesting to me is to have Colm Kelleher and George Knapp insert this myth about the Skinwalker lore.
Mm.
And interestingly enough, Navajo they're not in that area. This is the Ute Indian reservation. Navajo are down in the Four Corners area. I was also fortunate enough to have conversations with a man who was one of the world's foremost Native American historians at the University of Utah. He grew up in that area as well, and then went all over the country collecting oral histories of different Native American tribes. And so he was very helpful to me, and he just looked at me and said, I was telling him some of the story. He was just shaking his head. He's like, it's just, no, sorry. Didn't happen. This was never talked about. This is Navajo. And, so again, it's like you've got a journalist who is putting together this story that sounds really good on the front side. But when you start digging, and then you've got the Shermans who signed an NDA. Why? Why did they sign an NDA?
Mm.
Very odd. You've got the former owner, who, interestingly enough, was my bishop. I'm LDS, or I was LDS. And they had the property. They had Skinwalker Ranch for decades before the Shermans bought the property.
Right.
And they said that there was nothing taking place at the property ever. And they were good people, and they wouldn't lie. And so, you've got all of these things that start adding up, and you've got this top secret place where, the government is doing all these experiments. And I could literally walk over the fence. I mean, literally, just put one leg over, plop, go to the other side. I'm on the, there's no security. I mean, there might be a couple guys who dress up in their camos and get their long guns out and roam around for photo ops, but I mean, that's about it. It's ridiculous. And so if it's as frightening as it is, if there is a portal to another dimension, if people are getting radiation sickness, well, first of all, they wouldn't allow a film crew on there. Second of all, they that place would be locked down by the government.
Yeah.
So I mean, we just have to. And to me, I went from believing some of this to just going, huh, that's really interesting. And so it's been an eye opener for me as a person, as
Mhm.
an investigator, and these are all what to look for when something is not factual. Here's all of the red herrings right here, and so it's kind of it's interesting to me to see so many people get caught up with it, and they should be asking questions. I mean, you got a bunch of guys shining lasers up into the sky, and this is the top research. I think not, but have I seen any UFOs? I've seen things I can't explain. Um, there was a time when I saw something that I thought I couldn't explain, but as I learned more about visual acuity and things, seeing things at night, I have learned that the sighting that I had back then that I thought was unusual was very mundane and explainable. There are a couple other things that have happened to me that I kind of choose to keep to myself.
Mhm.
But they are still a mystery to me. I'm not going to say that they're ET because I don't know. Nobody knows.
No.
But they were unusual. And so that's another thing that keeps me going. I love all of this. I think, there are lots of mysteries out there. There are things that we can't explain. And that's, science is a really great thing. We should be utilizing, like the thing I've mentioned Norway a million times, but, they were
Mm.
really utilizing the scientific method to make discoveries or to disprove things. And that's an important thing. But I have seen things and they're fascinating. Life is fascinating. So
When you talk about Skinwalker, how do you separate folklore, giant wolves, poltergeist, high strangers from verifiable evidence?
well, quite easily. You've got a good story and a good, I mean, truth can be, documented. There, we've seen, like I said, the documentation that's come out of Skinwalker Ranch is just, I don't know. I mean, I have people that I know that are real scientists that are archaeologists that have studied, spent their whole lives dedicated to their careers. And when you put the evidence that's been put forward by the Skinwalker Ranch crew in front of these people that know their subject matter, they all look at it like, how does anybody ever believe this? There's so many holes in that. So it's quite interesting.
Right, I'll move on a little bit then. What are the biggest obstacles researchers face when they're trying to study the ranch seriously?
The ownership. I think the you know you they're pretty closed down. They want to, and I understand they want to work with who they want to work with or
Mm.
get who they want to on their TV show, um, and things. But there's so many other great scientists that are actually credible, that should be researching that. I don't think, and some of the people that have been involved in the Skinwalker narrative, over the decades are very suspect and not highly reputable either. They've been, responsible for promoting some of the biggest bunk in UFO history. So I don't know. From my standpoint, there is nothing of value to study at Skinwalker Ranch other than human behavior. I don't. There's nothing paranormal there. It's a it's a complete red herring. And there are places in the world that deserve to be studied. And so my advice is just definitely do not waste your time on that. It is what it is. It's a TV show now. It's a means to make money, and go out and you know get some equipment and go sit out in other places that could potentially have activity. There's so many more productive things to do other than Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah,
And I
no,
know because I've learned the hard way.
well, you will do, yeah. Well, this is my next question. How does Skinwalker Ranch compare to other hotspots of UFO and paranormal activity in Utah, like Dugway Proving Ground?
Well, I think they both compare in the way that they don't have anything paranormal happening. Dugway's been a long, Dugway, they use the UFO mythology, or they use the UFO story to, again, kind of obfuscate, like they did at Area 51. It's like nothing to see here. It's a UFO, folks. But they use that. In fact, you can go into the gift shop at Dugway and you can buy shot glasses and coffee mugs with little aliens on it that
Oh,
say
yeah.
Area 52. So it's kind of a joke, I think, to everybody there, but people will fall for it. And I don't know. They're doing top secret testing is what's taking place, at least at Dugway, not at Skinwalker. But so they're both just I think a lot of not a lot can be gleaned from that. And Utah's interesting too, because we do have really a lot of things going on in the military, with the military. We've got the NSA data headquarters here. We've got the test and training range, which is hundreds of thousands of acres, and then Dugway and things like that. So we have a lot going on in that sense. And so there's a lot that probably needs to be protected, I guess. And so, but there are places that have histories of potential sightings, and those are fascinating. Have some of them been debunked over the years, like the Marfa Lights? Yes, they have, but it's still fun. I don't know. I love stuff like that. And like I said, just, Norway, the people, Erling Strand, those people have just done incredible work. And those are the kinds of things I love, those adventures, and sitting with a scientist who knows what they're doing,
Oh,
and
God, yeah.
it's so fun.
Exactly what they know
Right.
best. Yeah, we talked a little bit about the media. How do you see the media portraying like ancient aliens and documentaries playing shaping public perception?
It's interesting. I've been on, some of these shows, and it is, I always try to, well, I am truthful. I try to present myself in the best way that I can.
Yeah.
And I know that there are, shows that try to shape narratives. And I think that a lot of times people want to, or maybe show producers want to, or TV, like news agencies want to get clicks, for their UFO content. Oh my gosh, there are these, Navy pilots who've seen things, yada yada yada. I mean, that generates clicks, and so that's great for their bottom line. But they're not really looking at a bigger story. They're just taking these little fluff pieces from here and here, and then putting that forward to the public, and that does shape the narrative, and it doesn't give people really factual information, which is unfortunate. And I think some shows that are put forward are all about promoting a fantasy and not providing any basis in reality. And so when you do find like a show that is putting forward like, okay, this could be really cool, but we're going to go look at it and put it through the ringer and things, those are kind of, those are important things. And
Oh, I'm going to say it's all to do with viewing figures.
pardon?
It's all to do with viewing
Yes.
figures.
Yeah, exactly. And, right now there are lots of documentaries coming out, and people needing to make money and things. And so there's a lot of marketing flooding social media, and it's an interesting thing to watch. There's so many layers to all of this. And I think that's another reason I love it. you know?
Oh God, no, yeah. Let's have a look here. What advice would you give to the new investigators who want to explore cases like Skinwalker Ranch? Responsibility.
I would just say do when you're checking information, don't go to a UFO source. Go to your public library. Go to an expert at a college. Go to an historian, and do your due diligence there. Make sure you're looking at, like, if people have specific sightings and you want to investigate that. Know the lay of the land, know where the airports are, know where the military installations are, know how things behave at night, know how, like, are there oil fields nearby that could be potentially causing a specific effect at night that people are seeing and misidentifying. These, know your land, know the lay of the land. That's really important. So it's not just about getting a person's, testimony. It's about dissecting all of these factors, and that's, again, another thing that makes it so cool. It's fun. I love learning about all of this. I love learning about astronomy. And we have so many apps right now at our fingertips that we can literally, hey, I think I see something. Okay, let's pull this app out. Oh, sorry, that was Venus. Awkward. But at least and it's cool.
Do I think there's a lot of sightings now around the world, and lots of new places coming on the scene? Another hotspot, and I mean a hotspot where unusual things happen.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see some of the news now, because you get a lot of this, well, the drones over here and da da da. And I think that's, again, muddying the waters, and who knows what the purpose is. But I mean, you hear about little hot spots, all over, and that would be fun to go investigate some of them. But like you said, there's so much flooding the zone right now, and so many fake photographs or videos, or people promoting stories that aren't even real people and things. And so there's a lot to contend with at the moment.
Yeah, I know. I know from my research with Paul Sinclair, we go to Bempton. It's an old RAF base, but the base was underground during the war, and it's a bird sanctuary as well. So, but a lot of people don't know about it. But there's more activity up there than at Skinwalker Ranch, and always will be. And we've got proof of it. We don't have to lie. We've got photos and lots of different things. You know, um, we're not we're not big on money.
Right.
What money we have is his own. We don't ask for help. We just Paul does a lot himself, and other people go with him. If I can't get there, other people go with him, and they're up there in the darkest nights at top of cliffs in sometimes in winter months, -6 and 7.
Oh, wow.
And it is cold up there. I've been up there in the morning when it's been -6, and there's just two of us up there, and you're thinking, God, if something happens now, because people do go missing at this area as well, unfortunately,
Oh,
over the
dear.
last 15 years, because it's a spot where people may want to jump off the
Right.
cliffs, but there's other times when people just go, I'm just taking dog for a walk, I'll be back for my tea, never to be seen ever again.
Oh, that's sad. Wow. What a fascinating place, and how cool is that you guys keep going out there and documenting things in the harshest of conditions, and that would
Oh,
be
yeah, my God, it's the different lights we've seen on land and out at sea, seeing a rectangle in the water, underneath the water, um, for, oh God, 15 minutes going gradually out to sea, a triangle of lights.
wow.
But there's people like Bigelow and all that. They want to come to Bepton, but
I bet.
yeah, because it's money for them, isn't it?
Well, they could certainly, maybe get a government contract. And that's another thing, like with the Bigelow thing, since you mentioned that, I mean, that's what he was about, getting government contracts. It's what he's about, getting government contracts. So if you're learning about what somebody else is coming up with, and I don't know. Anyway, I'll be quiet now.
Yeah, it's
You
like,
can get the gist.
okay. What future research or projects are you most excited about in relation to to ranch and other UFO studies?
I'm really excited about, I want to, because for a while I've been so immersed with the FOIA requests, and we've got a ton of new requests coming in, and we're learning things that are just mind blowing, and put pieces together, like I was mentioning, for the public. And so I'm continuing to do a lot of that. But I would like to next year again start to travel and to be out there and go to different locations. I'd love to come over and visit both of you,
Mm.
and that would be really, really fun. I would like to go overseas and to go to different places that have activity, and just talk with people and learn the lay of the land, and do things like that. So those are the things I would like to do in the upcoming year, and just continue to hit it hard with Expanding Frontiers and UFO Classified. So my show, I took a little break for a while, and my show is back, and we're doing, I've got great interviews lined up, and I should have you on there. That would be really fun.
Yeah, I would do. Yeah. Another guy you want to get on is Paul Sinclair.
Yes, I do. I think Paul has been on before.
He might have been.
I think he
Get
was.
him back on because there's lots more to tell you. And
Okay. I'll reach out to him. That would be fun.
he's had a documentary out called Wolfland.
Oh, cool.
It's on Netflix, so you can buy it or rent it. You
Oh,
want to watch it. It's all Paul's work. Brilliant documentary. I reckon it's one of the best out this year.
oh, cool. Well, I know what I'm doing tonight then. Thank you. Thanks for the tip.
So, have you got any more? Are you doing any more documentary? Are you going to be out on TV anytime?
You know what? I did film a show that I can't talk about, that will be coming out. I'm thinking in the spring, and so that will be good. And I love it's. I really like doing TV work. My background, I was a vocal performance major, and
Oh
so I've
yeah.
been a singer, my whole life, and performed, and I really feel comfortable. I do voiceovers and commercials and things, and I really like it. It's fun. So hopefully there will be more coming up, and I'd like to also get back out on the speaking circuit. And now that, we've got conferences are making a bit of a comeback, after COVID, it was hit and miss there, but I want to get out and be around people and have, conversations, with people in different areas. So that's what I want to do. And I'm putting that out there to the universe. So hopefully the universe will listen.
Oh, I'm sure they will do. I'm sure they will do. Yeah, I had a Men in Black encounter as well in 2017.
Well, that'd
Came,
be,
came knocking at my door.
oh dear.
Yes, frightening. Yeah, Paul's wrote about it and everything in his book, and one of his books. When you don't think, and after you think, why me? You know,
What
strange.
So what happened? Can you
Yeah, I was dog sitting for a friend of mine at the time, and took the dog out. Da da. It got to about 8 o'clock at night. Knock at the door. Bell went as well, and I thought, "Who the hell's that?" And they got like two doors, like glass doors, and I thought, it looks like police. And I opened one door and I looked at it. I thought, oh my God, two men in hats, all in black, asking me all these questions and saying, what you've been seeing out there, I don't want you to talk about. And all this carry on. And then one just leaned over and he said, we are watching you. Turned around, walked away, disappeared. I shut the door, ran upstairs quickly. So, because the top bedroom overlooks the road, couldn't see
Wow.
anybody. They'd
Oh, that's
vanished. They'd
that's
vanished.
scary. That must have been disconcerting for you.
It was. I got back in. I came down the stairs and sat there, and I thought, "Is that real?" was that real? I couldn't make out anything of it, and I couldn't hardly sleep. I went to bed, got up in morning, all the electric in the house had gone off, and he's to connect everything. You had to go in cellar. He had a wine cellar, so I went down there in the morning. I thought, why is all the lights gone off? Is something else happening here? And I went down, put lights back on, got back upstairs. And I thought I'd overslept by an hour as well, and never sleeping. One of them days. Anyway, I went to what I thought I better walk the dogs. Went into town, and I rang Paul up and I said, I need to see you. I worked in a charity shop for Sense for the deaf and blind people. And I said to Paul, I need to see you today. Why? I said, just come round to the shop. And when he walked in the shop, and he said to me, I knew straight away something had happened. So I told him a bit of story. He went, right, I'm on the ball. He went back home, got in his car, and went to the place I was looking after and knocked on everybody's door to see if anybody had got any video. And
Good for
nobody
him.
had.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
That's a good researcher, that is.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, no, that's interesting. Do you think, is there any military activity going on out there? Anything that?
Well, there were lots happening in 2017 at Benton as well.
Yeah.
What we'd seen and what we'd things what had been happening up there and around the area as well. Around the Briglington area district, there were these like German tanks with like a radar on the back, seated in different areas around Briglington. In one day, there were about 6. So it was as though they were tracking something.
Okay, interesting. Wow.
This makes you. Paul will even tell you the story as well. I'll tell you the story when I come on your show.
Yeah, that'd be fun to have. Even both of you guys together would be fun. That'd be a blast. We'll do it for the new year. We will do it.
Yes, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Erica, it's been lovely talking to you.
Same to you. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I loved it. I've loved it today. My guest next Wednesday is Joanne Summerskills, and I haven't talked to her for about 5 years. Don't know why. Just one of those things. So she's from the UK. I've met her quite a few years ago at one of the conferences, and I said, I will have you on my show. And it either didn't happen or it did happen. I can't remember. It's quite a few years ago. She's next Wednesday. So I think that's the Wednesday, the 10th of December. So thank you again.
Absolutely.
You take care. Have a lovely afternoon.
Yes, and happy holidays to you, my friend.
Oh, yes. If I don't see you again, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, and we will talk soon. Take care of yourself.
We will do the new year.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. And thanks everybody in the chat. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.